Japanese Prime Minister, Prime Minister Kishida, Honorable Prime Minister will be traveling to Hiroshima, Japan tomorrow morning, 19th of May, to participate in the G7 summit, where India has been invited as a guest country. This would be the first leg of Prime Minister's three-country visit. The G7 summit itself, this time around, has chosen several key priorities for the current presidency. The broad terms of the G7 summit preferences, in particular regarding their outreach with the invited guest countries, is 1. On nuclear disarmament, 2. On economic resilience and economic security, 3. Regional issues, 4. Climate and energy, 5. Food and health, and development. There are other priorities also, such as digitization and science and technology, which would get highlighted in various sessions during the G7 summit. India's participation at the G7 summit in Tokyo would be structured around 3 formal sessions. 2 of them would be held on 20th of May and the third one on the 21st. The 2 structural sessions on the 20th are, first one that relates to food, health, development and gender equality. The second session is on climate, energy and environment. And the third session on 21st of May is titled Towards Peaceful, Stable and Prosperous World. India's regular participation at the G7 summits clearly points to increasing recognition that India should be a part of any serious effort to resolve global challenges, including those of peace, security, development and environment preservation. This is even more salient in the context of our ongoing presidency of the G20 and our particular efforts to prioritize the interest and concerns of our fellow country members of the Global South. Ahead of Prime Minister's participation in the G7 summit, India has also participated in several ministerial level meetings of the G7, including in particular of the one relating to climate, energy and environment, 2 relating to digital and technology, and 3rd relating to health and finance. On the sidelines of the G7 summit, besides his interaction with the G7 countries and other guest countries in the 3 structural sessions that I mentioned, the Prime Minister will also hold bilateral discussions with several leaders of the G7, as also with the guest countries and the international organizations. Just to mention that besides India, Japan as the G7 presidency has also invited Australia, Brazil, Comoros, Cook Islands, Indonesia, Republic of Korea and Vietnam, and some of the international organizations including the United Nations. Honorable Prime Minister will also hold bilateral meeting with the Prime Minister of Japan. This is still being scheduled, so we will give you more details of this as we go along. He is also scheduled to unveil a bust of Mahatma Gandhi in Hiroshima. As you are all aware, the 2 Prime Ministers last met during the Japan-India summit held in New Delhi earlier in March this year. We are also planning a Quad leaders meeting in Hiroshima with Prime Minister Kishida, President of the US, Prime Minister of Australia, and of course our Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi. After Japan, for the second leg of his 3-country visit, Honorable Prime Minister will visit Papua New Guinea, which will include 1. The organization and the co-chairing of the 3rd Forum for India-Pacific Island Cooperation, FIPIC Summit on 22 May, and also some of the bilateral meetings. Prime Minister would be reaching Port Moresby from Hiroshima in the evening of 21st of May and will begin his bilateral engagements the next day with a call on the Governor General of Papua New Guinea, which will be followed by a meeting with the Prime Minister of PNG, Honorable James Marape. This will be Honorable Prime Minister's first visit to that country. During his stay in Port Moresby, Prime Minister will also be holding bilateral engagement with the Prime Minister of Fiji, Honorable Shri Rabuka. This would be their first interaction after Mr. Rabuka came to power in December 2022. As you are all aware, a major highlight of Prime Minister's visit to Papua New Guinea is the third summit of the Forum for Indo-Pacific Island Cooperation, FIPIC, as I just mentioned earlier, which will be jointly hosted with the PNG's Prime Minister, James Marape. Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi, just to recall, launched this forum during his historic visit to Fiji in November 2014, when he hosted the first FIPIC summit. The second FIPIC summit was held in Jaipur in August 2015, and both the summits have thus far seen participation of all 14 FIPIC countries. Just to list out the 14 PIC countries, these include Cook Islands, Fiji, Republic of Kiribati, Republic of Marshall Islands, Federated States of Micronesia, Niue, Republic of Nauru, Republic of Palau, Papua New Guinea, Samoa, Solomon Islands, Tonga, Tuvalu and Vanuatu. Prime Minister will also be meeting the Prime Minister of New Zealand during his stay in Papua New Guinea. This would also be Prime Minister's first interaction with the Prime Minister of New Zealand, who was sworn in as Prime Minister earlier in January this year. For the last leg of his three-country visit, at the invitation of Prime Minister of Australia, Prime Minister Anthony Albanese, Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi will travel to Sydney on 22 through 24 of May. Prime Minister Modi is scheduled to have a bilateral meeting with Prime Minister Albanese in Sydney. This will be their fifth meeting within this year. The first was held exactly a year back on the same date in Tokyo on the sidelines of Quad Leader Summit. Prime Minister is also expected to call on the Governor General, Honorable David Hertley. Also planned during the visit is a business event where Prime Minister would be meeting the leading CEOs from Australia. Prime Minister will also be addressing the diaspora at a community event in Sydney on 23rd of May. We are expecting Honorable Prime Minister Shri Albanese to also expected to join Prime Minister Modi at this community event. The visit of Honorable Prime Minister to Australia comes, as you all know, within just 2 months of the state visit of Prime Minister Albanese to India in March this year. The first India-Australia annual summit was held during the visit in Delhi on 10th of March, and Prime Minister Modi's last visit to Australia was in November 2014. We expect, and it's also our objective, that the visit to Australia will reinforce the strong priority attached by India and Australia to our bilateral relationship. I would like to end here, and if there are any questions, would be very happy to take them. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. For the ground rules, please introduce yourself and the organization that you represent. I'll open the floor. Yes, please go ahead.
गुड आफ्टरनून सर। सर मैं कविता जोशी हूँ, हरिभूमि न्यूज़पेपर से। सर मेरा सवाल ये है कि जो अभी आपने कहा कि हिरोशिमा में क्वाड लीडर्स समिट होगा, तो ये माना जाए कि अब सिडनी में जो क्वाड की मीटिंग होने वाली थी वो कैंसिल हो गई थी, उसकी जगह बदल के अब हिरोशिमा हो गई है। और सर इस पे जो बायलैटरल मीटिंग्स हैं पीएम की G7 की साइडलाइंस में जो होने वाली हैं, उसमें से आपने जापानीज़ प्राइम मिनिस्टर का तो बताया है, लेकिन उसके अलावा किन कंट्रीज़ के नेशन हेड्स के साथ प्राइम मिनिस्टर की बायलैटरल मीटिंग्स होंगी, उनके बारे में ही बताइए।
जापान के अलावा? या behind you.
Sir, Sridhar here from the Asian Age. Somewhat related to the previous question, what are the, how different will this Hiroshima Quad meeting be from a regular Quad summit at Sydney? How are the two distinguished? Thank you.
Please.
So this is Raghavendra Varma from German television ZDF. So the question from the editor, sir, in the Western countries, they're concerned about India's being abstaining from the resolution criticizing Russia and disregarding the Ukraine war. So the question, what is India willing to do to end the war in Russia and Ukraine?
So the question was the last part. The first one is just a comment. Okay, it's okay. Who had a hand up? Yeah, Yeshi, go ahead. I'll come back.
This is Yeshi Seli from the New Indian Express. So, during Prime Minister Modi's visit to Australia, what are the chances of, upgrading the existing trade agreement to a comprehensive economic partnership agreement with Australia during his visit to Sydney?
Upgrading the trade to a SECA.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Ek aur, sir. Oh, last one waiting.
Sir, Sri Joy, times now. Sir, you began your statement with a reference to nuclear disarmament. The PM is visiting, importantly enough, considering what happened in 1945, Hiroshima. Now, there have been recent reports and important meetings even within the government about, since you mentioned disarmament, nuclear disarmament, about the increasing number of nuclear warheads that are being built by the People's Republic of China, from their current figure of 380 to a larger figure. They're also modernizing. There are some reports, unconfirmed, that they may even change their nuclear use policy. That's not confirmed, but the modernization and the increase in the number is well known, and it's an issue of concern clearly here. Is this something that will be shared with other countries in a place like Hiroshima, of all places?
I'm sorry, I don't think I'm going to allow that question. I see very limited link with that. I understand it's a security issue, but this is not a nuclear security disarmament conference. Rest of it, sir, I'll pass it on to you.
थैंक यू। कविता जी, जैसे आपका जो पहला प्रश्न था, क्वाड की शिखर वार्ता जो सिडनी में निर्धारित थी और जो जिन कारणों से, और वो कारण आप सब लोगों को ज्ञात हैं कि वो नहीं हो रही, और अब वो ये प्रयास क्वाड के चारों देश कर रहे हैं कि हिरोशिमा में चारों नेताओं की, शीर्ष नेताओं की उपस्थिति का फ़ायदा उठाते हुए क्वाड की जो शिखर वार्ता है वो हिरोशिमा में की जाए। देखिए, क्वाड के जो सहयोग और सहकार्य और जो उनके सहयोग सहकार्य की प्रक्रियाएं हैं, उनकी संरचना इस प्रकार से है, उनका स्वरूप इस प्रकार से है कि क्वाड की शिखर वार्ता जब हिरोशिमा में होगी तो जो एजेंडा पिछली क्वाड की शिखर वार्ताओं में नेताओं के बीच में जिसके प्रति सहमति बनी है, उस सहमति के आधार पे क्वाड किस प्रकार से आगे सहयोग करे, आगे सहकार्य करे विभिन्न क्षेत्रों में। आर्थिक क्षेत्र हैं, मैरीटाइम डोमेन अवेयरनेस के क्षेत्र हैं, डेवलपमेंट कोऑपरेशन के क्षेत्र हैं, इंडो पैसिफिक में किस प्रकार से क्वाड देश अपना सहयोग और आगे बढ़ाएं, उससे संबंधित जो मुद्दे हैं, वो सारे के सारे मुद्दे अब जो है हिरोशिमा में, यदि इस क्वाड शिखर वार्ता का समय से आयोजन हो पाता है तो उसमें वो पूरी तरह से डिस्कस किए जाएंगे। सिडनी में शिखर वार्ता का ना हो पाना और उसका अब हिरोशिमा में होना, वो एक प्रकार से वेन्यू में तो चेंज है, लेकिन जो सहयोग की जो मुख्य भूमिका है, उसकी जो पृष्ठभूमि है, उसके जो स्पेसिफिक एस्पेक्ट्स हैं, उसमें किसी भी प्रकार का कोई भी परिवर्तन जो है वो नहीं आएगा। जहाँ तक बायलैटरल द्विपक्षीय मीटिंग्स का प्रश्न है हिरोशिमा में, जापान और कई अन्य देशों के साथ बायलैटरल मीटिंग्स अभी इस समय प्लानिंग की फेज़ में है, अपेक्षित है अन्य नेताओं के साथ भी। जैसे जैसे ये मीटिंग्स की संरचना और इनका टाइम स्लॉट स्पष्ट रूप से निर्धारित होता जाएगा, हम आपको जो है उसकी विस्तृत जानकारी समय समय पे देते रहेंगे। श्रीधर, just to continue to what I said, I think the elements of our engagement among the Quad countries across various domains, there would be absolutely no change in our collective objective to, one, strengthen them, two, build further layers of partnership and cooperation on them. When the four leaders meet in Hiroshima, they would naturally take a very good stock, good assessment of what has been the current status of engagement among the Quad countries, and then also build further on that. A lot of preparation has gone on for this Quad meeting. There are several deliverables which we are expecting to come out of it, and I think all that would be showcased when the four leaders meet in Hiroshima.
So it's a regular Quad summit. Sorry, you're not audible without the mic. I don't think, if you have a supplementary, we'll come back to it.
On the question from you with regard to, look, our position on Russia-Ukraine conflict has been, spoken, reiterated a number of times, both in our press briefings here and also outside this forum. Prime Minister has also spoken about what he himself believes should be the path forward for the resolution of this conflict. You would have all heard when during his meeting with the Russian president in Samarkand, he clearly said that this is not a need of war, and as this is not the era of war, the resolution of this conflict has to be through dialogue on diplomacy. That is the fundamental anchor on which our political positioning and the pursuit of our economic interest and other interest is based insofar as this conflict is concerned. This, as I said, has been enunciated and repeated several times. With regard to the question on upgradation of the current framework agreement that we have with Australia into the next one, look, the discussions on broad basing trade, investment and other elements of economic partnership between India and Australia is an ongoing discussion. Naturally, end objective is that we try to upscale and upgrade our current framework of partnership into comprehensive economic cooperation agreement, but those conversations are still going on. At this stage, I don't think it would be correct for me to conclusively say whether we would be able to achieve that objective prior to this visit. But it is something which is very substantive and a lot of work needs to go into it before you conclude it.
One second. You had a clarification question before that, yeah.
So just a small clarification. So this is a regular Quad summit in Hiroshima. Am I right in understanding that? This is not just a meeting or an informal. This is a regular Quad summit in Hiroshima. The venue has changed from Sydney. Am I right in saying that?
When the four Quad leaders meet, it is a Quad summit.
Okay. Madhurendra?
सर मधुरेंद्र मैं न्यूज़ नेशन से मेरा सवाल है कि पीएम मोदी और पीएम कसीदा के बीच बातचीत होगी, उसमें क्या बुलेट ट्रेन के प्रोजेक्ट को डिस्कस किया जाएगा, क्योंकि डेडलाइन को लेकर और फिनांस को लेकर कई तरह के सवाल हैं जो दोनों तरफ से रिपोर्ट किए गए हैं टाइम टू टाइम। और दूसरा सवाल, ऑस्ट्रेलिया के दौरान क्या पीएम मोदी किसी गुरुद्वारे को जाएंगे, और क्या वहाँ पीएम अल्फांसो के साथ जो बातचीत होगी उसके दौरान जो खालिस्तान का मुद्दा है और खासतौर पर जो रेडिकल एलिमेंट्स है उन पर भी बातचीत होगी?
Smita.
Smita Sharma here. Has there been any discussion on a formal expansion of the G7, perhaps including a membership for India too? And there is supposed to be an event where leaders, including the Prime Minister, will meet with the families of the atomic bombings victims. Do you think in that context, India's status as a non-NPT signatory could also come up for discussions?
Takir.
Tawkir from Yamuri Shamban. There is one of the programs in G7 where the invited leaders.
Sorry, which?
Tawkir from the Yamuri Shamban, Japan. So there is one of the program in G7 where the invited leaders are going to visit the Peace Museum. So I just want to understand that what is the significance of it in India, for India, and since as Smita mentioned about our nuclear policy.
Hi sir, it's an unrelated question, but hi, Akshay Dongre
Sorry.
from India Today.
Yeah.
Sir, a bit unrelated question, but this question is on baby Ariha. It's been 20 months since...
It is unrelated. Can we move on to something else? Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
This is Manas from PTI, Press Trust of India. I just wanted to ask you, India is holding the presidency of G20 and Prime Minister Modi is going for G7 summit. And there have been so many areas of convergence. So is it going to just seek convergence between the two groupings in dealing with pressing challenges like food, energy security, etc.? Thank you.
And we had one question there. Yeah, go ahead.
Hello sir, I'm Siddhant from CNN News 18. So my question is with regards to US annual religious freedom report. And why I'm asking this question is because there is a possibility that Prime Minister will hold bilateral with President Biden on the sidelines of G7 in Japan. So will this issue be raised? Because with each passing year this report comes up and India condemns it, India calls it biased. So is there going to be any end of
I didn't get your question. Who will raise it?
The Prime Minister, Indian side will.
We should raise their report.
The report, because each year we condemn it.
My institute, we've said what we have to say, but I will leave if Forensic wants to add anything. We taken one more question. Who was here? Yeah, no, before.
So the G7, of course, is also expected to talk about debt relief. It's also expected to talk about food security. These are, of course, priorities that India has also pushed through its presidency of the G20. Are you optimistic about certain specific deliverables in terms of policies for example, swaps, debt relief for developing countries, as that's a major economic priority right now?
This is from, I'm not clear, is this from the G7 or the G7 partners meeting?
Yes, but during the meeting is India likely to push that and table debt relief and specific...
Debt relief and all, okay. Yes, sir.
Okay.
I'll just get to that.
I think I'll just pick up the last one first. You see, there are, the way the G7 summits are organized, there are two parts to it. The first part is discussions among the G7 countries. The agenda for those discussions does not include the guest country participation. The second part of it is where G7 countries interface with the invited guest countries on a set of global priorities which are naturally of interest to the world in general, but also in particular to the developing countries. Along with Prime Minister, I mentioned to you the other countries which have been invited. In this outreach of G7 summit members with the invited countries, the discussion will revolve around 3 sessions which I mentioned to you. And if you look at the areas of focus which I mentioned, they include food security, health security, development cooperation, gender equality, climate, energy and environment, and the stability and prosperity of world in general. All these are essentially areas which are very crucial, not just for global growth, but also particularly for the developing world. What specific deliverables come out of these discussions between the G Summit members and the invited countries? I think once those sessions are over, we will be sharing them with you. Many of them are still under discussions, and over the next 48 to 72 hours, they will take a concrete shape, and in that sense, we will be able to then share them with you. देखिए, जापान के प्रधानमंत्री जी के साथ किन किन मुद्दों पे बातचीत होगी वो तो इस समय मेरा कहना उचित नहीं होगा, लेकिन ये अपेक्षित है कि जब दोनों नेता मिलेंगे तो आर्थिक सहयोग के सभी विषयों पे और जो हमारे सामरिक सहयोग और सहकार्य के क्षेत्र हैं उन सभी विषयों पे भी दोनों नेतागण अवश्य चर्चा करेंगे। मगर जैसे कि मैंने कहा कि द्विपक्षीय वार्ताएं अभी जापान और बाकी देशों के साथ अभी उनकी शेड्यूलिंग चल रही है, और जब एक बार उनका स्पष्टीकरण हो जाता है तो उसके बाद वो जानकारी हम आपके साथ शेयर कर सकेंगे। ऑस्ट्रेलिया की यात्रा के दौरान भी ये हम अपेक्षा कर सकते हैं कि जब दोनों नेता आपस में वार्ता करेंगे तो द्विपक्षीय सहयोग के सभी मुद्दों पे विस्तार से बातचीत की जाएगी। ये स्वाभाविक है कि सहयोग के क्षेत्रों में वो क्षेत्र भी शामिल हैं जो कि दोनों समाजों की सुरक्षा के हितों से जुड़े हुए हैं, और उन मुद्दों पर अवश्य ही जो है बातचीत होगी। खालिस्तान का जहाँ तक मुद्दा है, उस मुद्दे की सहनशीलता, उसकी संवेदनशीलता को लेते हुए हमने ये मुद्दा कई बार ऑस्ट्रेलिया के समक्ष रखा है, और इस विषय पे हमारी और ऑस्ट्रेलिया के बीच में वार्ता लगातार जो है जारी रहती है। ये जो I think there was a question with regard to the meeting between the leaders participating there, and a meeting with the family members, or the visit to different memorials or monuments in Hiroshima. There are several parts of our own Prime Minister's program in Hiroshima, as also with the of the G7 leaders, which are still developing, which still have to take shape. And as I said, once those program elements are finalized and those activities do take place, we would be very happy to share with you not just the significance of that particular thing that finalized, but also the context in which those elements of the visit and events and activities in Hiroshima have been finalized. So that is, I think, in the post.
If without a mic, you will not come.
With whom?
Could that be, a subject of discussion, given the focus on nuclear disarmament? India is not a signatory to the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty.
Yeah.
So will that be a subject of discussion? And
the
formal expansion of the G7 membership, is that something?
Look, India is not a G7 member, so it would be very incorrect for a non-G7 member to even talk about G7 member expansion. I think that is something which that's a question which probably needs to be addressed to the G7 itself. As I have already highlighted to you in my remarks, the sessions, the structural subjects which are going to be the focus of discussions between the G7 summit leaders and the invited countries. And I just answered a little while earlier with regard to this would be focused on food security, health security, development cooperation, climate, energy, environment, and peaceful, stable, and prosperous world. Now, naturally, the visit is set in Hiroshima, which has a certain context. And I think the world is fully aware of what our positions have been on the global nuclear disarmament. And I think those positions have been articulated several times. And there is absolutely nobody is in any doubt in terms of where India stands when it comes to the peace and stability and the nuclear disarmament in the rest of the world. But specific elements of the program which you mentioned, both the Peace Museum, meeting with the families, I think those are something which, as and when they get finalized, we'll be very happy to share them with you.
I'll take a last quick few. We're really out of time. Who had a question? Yeah, go ahead. Just 1 second. No, hold. Sorry, I missed you. Yeah.
Sir, Rishikesh from PTI. To what extent the topic of counter-terrorism expected to be discussed during the bilateral of PM Modi with Biden, and will India request President Biden's assistance in expediting the extradition of Tahbur Rana, the Pakistan origin terrorist?
Yeah. There at the back.
So I'm Abhishek Kapoor from Republic TV. There have been some specific and open threats by some Khalistani elements to disrupt Prime Minister's Sydney events. Has it been taken up insofar as providing additional layer of security is concerned? Yes, right, sir. And second, if you could take this question.
Stick to question, quick, fast, if you have
fast.
Really
About half an hour back, we reported about half an hour back, we reported of Indian naval assets assisting Chinese People Liberation Army Navy in search and rescue operations.
Sorry, not relevant. I'm happy to discuss separately. No, sorry, not relevant. Please, Yuma.
I'm Huma Siddiqui from the Financial Express. Just wanted to know what would be the focus of the third forum meeting in Papua New Guinea, and there's also news that there's several agreements which are going to be inked during that visit. So can you just talk about that, please?
Okay, and a final question. So, yeah, Akhilesh. Akhilesh.
Sir, I'm Akhilesh Suman from Samsung TV. We had organized a meeting of Global South, and when Prime Minister Narendra Modi is going to participate the outreach of G7, what is the message that we want to communicate the members of G7 at this moment?
There's someone, you had a question? Something very different? Yeah.
Sir, I'm Suman Sharma. So you mentioned the last EPIC summit was held in Jaipur in 2015. So it's happening now. So why did it take so long? Why didn't it happen in these years?
Thank you, sir. I will hand over this question to you.
I think we'll just, if you all allow, I think Huma Siddiqui ji's question on the third FIPIC summit and what the priorities are, I would request my colleague, Secretary East, Mr. Saurabh Kumar, to first answer that, please. Yeah.
So let me take your question first. The thrust of our cooperation with the Pacific Island countries has been to a very large extent around the areas which are of importance to these countries. And these include things like sustainable development, sustainability, quick impact projects, humanitarian assistance and disaster relief, etc. And we have undertaken certain projects out there also, including in the area of IT sector. We have an MOU in the area of sustainability, which was an announcement which was made last time, and subsequently it was signed. What the exact outcomes of this particular summit would be, we would have to wait and see what outcomes are there. I think as far as your question, madam, is concerned about why there was a delay, we had, the Forum Summit had been scheduled some time ago for 2020, but because of, COVID and other scheduling difficulties, it could not be held at that point of time, and we are having it now. Thank you.
I think the first question was whether the question of counterterrorism and speedy extradition of Tahawur Rana, whether that would be taken up with President Biden in the discussions. I think that was your first question. Look, as I've already mentioned to you, the bilateral meetings on the sidelines of the G7 summit in Hiroshima are still being firmed up. So I am not going to make any assumptions about which meetings would happen, which meetings would not happen. But whatever bilateral meetings that Prime Minister holds on the sidelines of the G7 summit with whichever leader, the entire gamut of the bilateral relationship with that particular country would fall under the scope of discussions between the Prime Minister and that leader. But very specifically not connected to the question of which bilateral meeting will take place or not. Insofar as the question of Tahawur Rana is concerned, we are in very regular touch with the US authorities to ensure that there is speedy and early extradition of Tahawur Rana. We have all seen the judgment which was given by the local US court there. That conversation of ours with the US side is continuing. Akhilesh, your question on Abhishek, and this question on security, etc., for the visit of the Prime Minister. Look, whenever Honorable Prime Minister travels to any destination, all elements relating to logistical and security arrangements of his visit are duly taken care of. But those are the questions that we don't comment on. But the relevant people are who are charged with that responsibility do take full care of that. On the question relating to what will be our message from the Global South to the G7 leader, along with, of course, what are also the focus areas of India's G20 presidency. Look, when we did the briefing on the Voice of Global South Summit here in this room, we had mentioned that one very clear sense that came across during the Voice of Global South Summit was that the countries of the Global South clearly felt that their priorities of development, debt-free development, or development which doesn't burden them with debt, the problems which they faced, particularly during the pandemic and thereafter, of food security, health security, the way the societies of the Global South suffer because of the challenges of climate change, the way they think the Global South needs to be looked at when you look at liberalized global trade regime. It was a clear sense that came out of the meeting of the Voice of the Global South that these priorities are not adequately or deeply or properly addressed by the countries of the West. When even in the past meetings, whenever Honorable Prime Minister has spoken at such multilateral forum, he has always been in the forefront championing the cause and the priorities of the Global South countries. And naturally that would also be one of his priorities when he engages and interfaces with the leaders of the G7 summit during his visit to Hiroshima.
Thank you very much, sir. My thanks also to other secretaries, particularly Secretary E. Saurabh Kumar and Secretary E. R. Sridhamu Ravi, for joining us on this briefing. Thank you all for joining. Please stay tuned to our updates on our social media and otherwise on the forthcoming visit of Prime Minister to these three nations.
Thank you very much.